Hello and welcome back, all my Dragon Ball theorists. The big question on everyone's mind is how did a Saiyan manage to avoid everyone and stay hidden? A legendary Saiyan at that. The new origin story of Broly and Paragus that will be told in the upcoming movie has us fans anxious and wondering how can Toriyama add them in now? Where can he introduce them to line up with the current Dragon Ball Super storyline? When Beerus was looking for a Super Saiyan God, surely Whis would have noticed someone of Broly's power, wouldn't he? I mean, once he gazes into his staff, it reveals everything. I know, Broly was just a glimmer in Toriyama's eye when Battle of the Gods and the plot for Super was unfolding. We didn't know that Super would be a huge success and even run to 131 episodes. Now that huge success has given us this big production in a Dragon Ball Super movie coming out in December, which is looking like it will be the longest Dragon Ball movie ever with some of the best animators working on this project. So how has Broly, and Paragus for that matter, stayed hidden? What does Toriyama have in store for us when rewriting the origin story of Broly? To be clear, I see a lot of fans asking in the comments that how can Broly come back from being dead? How is Broly so powerful? You must realize that Broly is a brand new character. This is the first time we are seeing him. This is the first time Vegeta and Goku are seeing him. As Vegeta says in the trailer, I don't know who he is, but his power is absurd. This new Saiyan, who is Broly, is now part of the Dragon Ball Super continuity, which is totally different from any of the old Broly movies. A suggestion from Toriyama's editor is the reason why Broly even got a reboot. So after Toriyama watched the old Broly movies, he said yes, I like the idea and think if I move some things around, I can work Broly into Dragon Ball Super as a brand new character, and improve Broly with far more power, character development, and of course backstory. So to dive into a new Saiyan popping up now, there will be some retconning going on. Sometimes this bothers us fans, but you have to understand that the longer they keep continuing this story, the once impossible that would never happen eventually has to happen. Broly as a canon character was impossible, but guess what? Now we have him. So I will be going over some of the up-to-date news and an interview with the DBS movie director Tatsuya Nagamine that gives us the best idea of this new story being told of Broly. I want to thank Herms98 on Twitter for covering the interview and all the translations up front, and a link is in the description of everything. I think that there are some key notes in this interview that are telling of the backstory of Broly, and will use this information to tell his origin story. Going over the new characters of Chell-Ye, who is a young delinquent girl who acts on her emotions. She helps out Broly without thinking of the consequences, with terrible results. Limo has served in Frieza's army for decades. He wants to do something about Broly, but knows his own limits. Limo encountering Broly and Chell-Ye's actions start to influence him. The director notes he likes the balance between these characters, but saying anything more would spoil the movie. So one of the more talked about images from the movie trailer of Frieza's ship, Goku and Vegeta standing in front of it, Frieza standing there, and then Broly and Paragus walking out of the ship. So how did Broly, a new Saiyan, end up with Frieza's army? How does Frieza plan on controlling such a monster in Broly? Well, the key ingredient is Limo and his decades of service in Frieza's army. After Frieza destroyed planet Vegeta, most of the Saiyans were destroyed except for the ones we have come to know and love. However, we now know Paragus and Broly must have also escaped this disaster as well. Paragus must have had the foresight of Frieza eventually wanting to destroy the Saiyans, or the knowledge that there was also Beerus who was pulling all the strings. Knowing this, Paragus fled planet Vegeta and took a young Broly with him to avoid a war they were not ready to fight. Keep in mind, Beerus hated King Vegeta and treated him poorly. Beerus was someone who was in the picture and left a lasting impression on any Saiyan who witnessed it, which led him to ordering Frieza to destroy the Saiyans while he was asleep. Frieza did just that, and Goku on Earth survived and any Saiyan that was left in his army, which was Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz. So there was no knowledge of Paragus or Broly being alive for decades until one of Frieza's most loyal soldiers found them. That soldier is Limo, and even during Frieza's death, continued to serve him and carry out actions of Frieza's force while he was gone. Being part of Frieza's vast army, it has reached different parts of the universe, and finally Limo and Chell-Ye have picked up on Saiyans that remained hidden. The reason why I say Broly and Paragus weren't discovered by anyone before Frieza's death or his army is because we most certainly would have learned of Broly's tremendous power sooner. King Kai would have noticed someone like Broly powering up and working in Frieza's army, taking over planets, and let Goku and Vegeta know that there is another Saiyan out there. So Limo most likely accidentally stumbled upon Paragus and Broly by extending the reaches of Frieza's army while he was dead. Paragus is a brilliant scientist and developed ways to stay hidden in the far reaches of the universe, developing something to suppress Broly's magnificent power and stay off the radar until now. So the cat's out of the bag, and Paragus is well aware of Frieza and his army, decides now is the time to put his plans into action. They decide to join Limo and the Frieza Force. Meanwhile, there's this thing called the Tournament of Power going on, and unknown to anyone in the Frieza Force, but Universe 7 managed to win the tournament, and because Frieza was such a huge part of their victory, was resurrected again by Whis. Frieza said that he didn't plan to change any of his ways, and Goku and Vegeta said, "We can just defeat you again if needed." So the closing credits of Dragon Ball, Frieza is once again in charge of his army and has his plans of being the ruler of the universe. However, Frieza is in for quite a treat when he discovers that Limo found more Saiyans on a distant planet, that one of these Saiyans is different than any other, and now he comes up with a scheme to test out Broly's power by visiting Goku and Vegeta. Which is why in this image we have Goku and Vegeta meeting Frieza, and Broly and Paragus are coming out of his ship. Except the plot will have many twists and some backstabbing going on. Frieza plans to use Saiyans vs Saiyans and still has aspirations of dethroning Zeno and making sure Beerus isn't a threat anymore. He wants to not only rule the universe but stand on top of the gods one day. The problem is Paragus has a similar plan, and is just using Frieza for convenience to get back at the one who ordered the destruction of Planet Vegeta, which is Beerus. So Paragus pledged his alliance to Frieza and said that he wants to serve him and help him accomplish his goals, that Broly's power is unmatched and that he will fight to make sure he has an unstoppable empire. Frieza thinks great, and he can probably just eliminate all the Saiyans and Beerus by them fighting each other, while he sits back waiting to step in at the very end to deliver a final blow. However, Broly will be turned loose on everyone, and Frieza won't get what he is looking for. They will realize that Broly is the strongest opponent they have ever faced. It's questioned even recently that he has the power that is greater than a god of destruction. This is something that could be true. How or why could be due to Paragus' work all these years in secret trying to engineer for a way that someday there could be a Saiyan that would be able to oppose Lord Beerus. Maybe he found out that way. Maybe it was just a matter of time before the universe learned who Broly is and what it means to be a legendary Saiyan. Maybe Paragus' delusions of revenge cause him to create and perfect a monster with the destructive force greater than a god of destruction, that all he cares about is this revenge and he will get it at any cost. Paragus, consumed by this idea, lost sight at what was important and created something that he has no hope in controlling, an enemy that has the power to fight a god. Well, this is at least my story on how Broly has remained hidden and the plot of the movie with the information that we know so far. Perhaps, as it was stated, Chell will help turn Broly loose. We do know that Frieza won't change. It was stated in the anime, and in the interview the director said in Resurrection F, Frieza was at a huge disadvantage fighting on his own, but says everyone should look forward to seeing how Frieza will oppose Goku and Vegeta this time around. Frieza has to come up with a plan to defeat Beerus and company, and that plan might be Broly. It's just disposing of Beerus and company with what he will learn as someone as uncontrollable as Broly could have its own consequences. Is there any holes in this plot? Well, one of the things they do a great job of in Dragon Ball is making some things vague so they can be retconned at a later date. For those who think this is a plot hole and we should have seen Broly with his power suppressed on a distant planet, his staff can see everything, and when looking for Saiyans he should have noticed them, and well, maybe he did. He did say most of the Saiyans were on Earth, and the one known as Goku is on King Kai's planet. Perhaps with Broly's power suppressed and Paragus being a scientist, they were overlooked. They went right for Goku because it was suspicious and then went to ask Vegeta. These unknown Saiyans with no power weren't important at the time, and well, Beerus got to fight his Super Saiyan God anyways. So in the end it all works out, and could see Whis stating later that he noticed there were other Saiyans, but it didn't seem important anymore. I just want to say that Toriyama actually wrote a 3-hour movie with his storyboard and the history of the Saiyans and plot with Frieza. They actually had to cut down on some of the story to fit it into a movie. The good news about this is, first, we are going to have a crazy awesome movie coming out in December. The next thing is, after this movie, when a Dragon Ball series returns, they have plenty of material to make episodes written by Toriyama that weren't able to make the final cut of the movie. We could see a next series start off with the retelling of the movie like they did in Battle of the Gods and Resurrection F. With how hyped this movie is and us fans patiently waiting for it, I think it would be a pretty awesome start to the next Dragon Ball series. Now tell me what you think about this question on how Broly has remained hidden and why he is emerging now. Do you agree with the story I told, and can you see the plot for this movie being something similar? I always love to hear your theories in the comments below, and thank you all for the ongoing support. It really means a lot, and your comments and feedback on all the videos have kept me going. So for that, I thank you. And if you enjoyed this video, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, and please subscribe and turn on that notification bell to keep those theories coming.